it actually makes it so much more easier for the people because it's much easier to be a good bridge between two ends which are getting along well with each other than when it's not. So today, bear in mind, when I spoke at some length about the global workplace, honestly, a global workplace is being formed. Global workplace is being formed because one, skills and talents are mobile. Secondly, tasks and work is also mobile. So a lot of tasking could come to India without people leaving India. A lot of work gets done outside India by people moving out of India. So in a much more, I would say, globalized work environment, much more mobile work environment, where overall, the nature of economic activities are actually going to get far more creative in a way. Because the reality is, 5 years from now, we are probably not going to recognize almost any activity which today we are doing. Because that is actually going to be the kind of intensity of change that we are contemplating today. In this kind of work, I do think that, the more you do for your own, in your particular domain or line of work, the more achievements you have, the more respect you earn, the contribution you make, not just, to personal reputation, yes, but to overall branding of a country, of a society, of a people, the more effective a kind of a bridge that you cultivate. And I would say here, students, young people, professionals have particularly that responsibility, that the impact that they have on society is huge. People in the government will do their jobs, okay? We live in a way like a silo. We might make decisions which have implications for other people, but at the end of the day, in any society, when you think about a country, you put a face or an experience to that country. You are all the faces and experiences which Australians will be using as a reference point. So I do think today, if the seed flowers, believe me, that tree is an Indian tree, it's an Australian tree, in a way it's a global tree today. That, we need to have that sort of larger, collaborative kind of vision in our mind. In terms of the resistance to change, yes, there are two problems really. One is habit and one is vested interest. That people, if you're doing the same thing again and again, and I come and ask you to do it differently, your instinct is to resist. Now, if you have an interest or somebody else has an interest in your doing it the old way, it's going to harden your attitude. So, one of the challenges we have found in terms of transformation in India, and in a way I could say public delivery. Interestingly, the Foreign Ministry itself has been one of the pioneers of this effort. When I started out in the government, in the locality where I lived, I was known as the guy who could talk to somebody to get you a passport. Because it was very difficult to get a passport. So, and in fact, I was talking to someone, this happens to be my contemporaries, you would have people didn't even give it in through the formal process. Because you would have, touts or intermediaries who made it a business. Now, from making it so hard, and when you travel out, others don't believe that sometimes it will take you months, if not years, and sometimes you never got a passport. Now, if you look today at how something like that has changed so dramatically, that today people get it within days. There are a variety of reasons for it. One is that you ask them for documentation which is digital, they provide it. You don't have to physically do many of the checks which you have to. You actually cut out the intermediaries who are making a good living in the process. But, it looks so easy. I must tell you, it was very hard to do actually on the ground. Many of these changes were done when I was Foreign Secretary. My minister was Sushma Swaraj. And we would keep meeting and we keep taking feedback from different passport offices about the speed at which they give passports. I still do that. We look, my office, I think every week, we get from every passport office saying, okay, give me the number of cases pending, how many days do you take? Because we know, we know that if you do not make this into a habit, because at the end of the day, the person applying for the passport and the person giving the passport finally get into the habit that you're supposed to do it without other considerations. It will happen. But it isn't easy. Now, at every stage, when I spoke about giving houses or allowing people health entitlements or even giving food, how much of the food in the ration shops actually never reached the person for whom it was intended? Now, the moment you make it digital, the moment you have the ability to check, you actually have developed a kind of infrastructure. It still doesn't happen automatically. You still have to change the, and this is where, to me, one of the good things I see, I like this aspiration in India because they also hold people to account. People will not put up with things which they would have put up with 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And that's a good thing in our country. The peace question. Look, right now, there are many ways I could answer it, but there are right now, I think, two conflicts which are in everybody's mind. One is Ukraine, and one is what is happening in the Middle East. In different ways, we are trying to do something in both. With regard to Ukraine, we we feel strongly, not just us, we believe that the 125 countries of the global south are feeling the distress, the pain of this conflict. It affects their lives as well. We think that there has to be some kind of serious effort to come back to diplomacy. So we are making our effort here, and Prime Minister personally is involved in that. He went to Russia in July, and then he went to Ukraine in August. He met President Zelensky separately once in June and once in September. We again had a meeting last month with President Putin in Kazakh. We feel that the rest of the world should not throw up its hands and say, okay, let's wait for them to slug it out and one day they'll get tired and something will happen. Because every day there is a cost to the world. Apart from the cost to these countries and to the region. So it is a situation which does call for some degree of, activity or proactive diplomacy. We are trying to do that. When we began doing it, I think there was a certain degree of skepticism, to be honest. I would say today there is a much greater understanding, especially among Western countries, why we are doing what we are doing. We have very strong support from the global south as well for our endeavors. So we are, hoping that through multiple conversations we are able to create some common ground so that some beginnings of diplomacy can issue. The situation with the Middle East is very different. At the moment, the effort is more to prevent the conflict from spreading. And here, one of the gaps is the inability of Iran and Israel to talk to each other directly. So different countries are trying to see if they can, bridge that gap. We happen to be one of them. But certainly these are both today very, very worrying situations. And in a globalized world, really conflict or instability anywhere has implications everywhere. I mean, you see that in inflation, you see that in energy, in food, in disrupted supply chains. So that's one of the reasons we are approaching it today.